Houston is a city that launched space exploration and built the energy industry. But did you know that it's also home to a woman whose net worth is closing in on $1 billion? But here's the thing. She's not even close to the most interesting story on this list. Today, we are counting down 15 richest black women in Houston with 15 completely different blueprints for wealth. From wearable tech and aerospace to a $17.5 billion infrastructure empire most people have never heard of, this jaw-dropping countdown starts now. Number 15. Mykel B. Davis. Here's a question nobody in the baby products industry was apparently asking. Why does a breastfeeding mother have to be tethered to a wall? Mykel B. Davis asked it, couldn't find a satisfying answer, and built the J35, the first black-owned wearable, hands-free, cordless breast pump on the market. Before the product existed, she'd built an online community of over 150,000 mothers who were all experiencing the same gap she had. She didn't need a focus group. She was the focus group, and so was every woman in that community. Her Houston-based brand, Muscle Up Mommy, turned a maternal frustration into a legitimate health tech product company. And the business model is worth understanding because it's increasingly the template for how consumer brands get built in 2025. First, you build the community, then you identify the gap, then you create the product for people who already trust you and already need it. Davis did all three, and she did it in a sector, maternal health technology, that venture capital largely ignored until founders like her started proving the demand was real. The creator economy meeting real manufacturing and meaningful health outcomes. That's the wealth angle here, and it's one far more people should be watching closely. Number 14. Wanda Anderson Roberts. Not every empire starts with a venture capital deck and a Silicon Valley pitch meeting. Wanda Anderson Roberts built hers in Pearland with a popcorn machine, a pair of grooming shears, and a photography studio. And she runs all three simultaneously. Ideal Pet Grooming, Serenity Studios, and the popular Popcorn Bar are the three pillars of a family-run business portfolio that she's scaled from passion projects into revenue-generating operations with both mobile and brick-and-mortar footprints across the Houston area. She launched the Popcorn Bar alongside her son, which means she's not just building a business, she's building a family business model, the kind that creates intergenerational momentum rather than a single-generation paycheck. She's a regular presence on Great Day Houston, which means her story reaches the kind of everyday Houston audience that doesn't follow TechCrunch but absolutely understands hustle when they see it. The lesson in Robert's story isn't complicated. Stop waiting for one big idea and start building multiple good ones simultaneously. The portfolio starts looking like an empire faster than you'd think. And in Houston's small business community, she's already considered exactly that. Number 13. Margot Jordan. Margot Jordan looked at the adolescent mental health crisis, the anxiety, the collapsing self-esteem, the performance pressure that's quietly breaking an entire generation, and decided the solution needed to be scalable in a way that traditional therapy never could be. Her startup, Enrichly, uses artificial intelligence and behavioral science to build self-esteem and improve academic performance in young students, and it earned her a spot on the 2025 Inc. Female Founders 500 list alongside a cohort of Houston female founders collectively generating $9 billion in revenue. That number keeps getting cited because it keeps being astonishing. $9 billion in revenue from a group of female founders in a single city, in a single year. In a city that runs on energy and aerospace, the emergence of a legitimate ed-tech and health tech sector led by black women is one of the more quietly significant economic shifts developing in Houston right now. And Jordan is one of the clearest examples of it. She transitioned from personal challenges to high-tech founder, which is a path that sounds simple and is anything but. The fact that she's doing it in the mental health space, for kids, in a market that's chronically underfunded, makes the Inc. 500 recognition feel like the beginning of a much bigger story. Number 12. Latia Norwood. Latia Norwood runs Lurene and Associates, a strategic planning and project management consultancy that serves Fortune 500 companies. And she does it with the credibility of someone who previously served as president of PMI Houston, the Project Management Institute chapter for one of the most infrastructure-heavy, operationally complex cities in America. Project management at the Fortune 500 level is not a glamorous industry, but it is a spectacularly profitable one, because large organizations will always pay premium rates for people who can actually deliver results at scale. She also founded the She Said Foundation, a mentorship organization for women in business, which means she's building the next generation of talent in parallel with her own consulting operation. Her motto, "Lift as you climb," reflects a philosophy that treats mentorship not as charity, but as a strategic investment in the ecosystem that produced her. For anyone tracking Black wealth in Houston, Norwood is a reminder that the consulting and strategy sector is one of the most accessible paths to seven-figure income for women with her skill set, and that she's actively building pathways for others to find the same door. Number 11. Kathy Flanigan. Payton. Kathy Flanigan Payton grew up in Houston's 5th Ward, the same neighborhood that produced Barbara Jordan and Mickey Leland, and made a decision that most people with upward mobility don't make. She stayed and built something. As president and CEO of the 5th Ward Community Redevelopment Corporation, she's leading the Lyons Avenue Renaissance, a multi-million-dollar revitalization initiative designed to transform historic community corridors into centers of economic activity and generational wealth for the people who actually live there. She's embedded in the Ellis Project 10X investment cohort, a $1 billion commitment to building Black wealth through real estate in underserved communities, one of the largest organized efforts of its kind in the country. Payton's framework is a deliberate reframe. Community development is not poverty relief. It's an asset class, and the people who grew up in a neighborhood should be the ones who own it when the market finally catches up to its value. In Houston's real estate landscape, where gentrification is moving fast, that philosophy isn't just admirable, it's urgent. Number 10. Stephanie Murphy. Houston didn't get the nickname Space City for nothing, and Stephanie Murphy is one of the reasons that identity has real commercial relevance in 2025. As the CEO and executive chairman of Aegis Aerospace, she leads a firm providing spaceflight product development and engineering services to government and commercial clients, and earned a spot on the 2025 Inquirer Female Founders 500 list in the process. She sits on the Texas Space Commission Board and the Texas Aerospace Research and Space Economy Consortium Executive Committee, positions that give her direct influence over how the state allocates its strategic investments in the commercial space economy. The broader industry group Murphy operates in attracted $9 billion in revenue in 2024 alone, and the commercial space sector is growing at a pace that makes most other industries look slow. The transition from government-run to commercially driven space services is one of the defining economic stories of the next decade, and Murphy is writing part of it from Houston, which is exactly where it should be written. Number 9. Chachella James. What does real institutional power actually look like for a Black woman inside a Fortune 500 corporation? Chachella James is a pretty clear answer. As Vice President of Technology Operations at CenterPoint Energy, she oversees the IT infrastructure that keeps one of Houston's most critical utility providers operational, a corporate division of more than 600 employees, managing systems that power much of the greater Houston area. She joined CenterPoint in 2017 and has since built a reputation as an advocate for equity in technology and engineering, specifically creating pathways for Black professionals and underserved youth into high-earning STEM roles in the energy sector. The wealth angle here is one that doesn't always get its due. Executive VP compensation at Fortune 500 energy companies, base salary, stock grants, and performance bonuses combined regularly reaches into 7 figures. James doesn't need a startup or a brand deal to be operating at a significant wealth level. She needs the role she already has, and she's using it to change who gets to have that kind of role next. Number 8. Dr. Kelly Leblanc. Early in Dr. Kelly Leblanc's career, a white female anesthesiologist looked at her and said, plainly, that Black female anesthesiologists didn't last long. That moment could have been a warning. She treated it as a data point she spent the next 2 decades methodically disproving instead. Today, she is a physician partner at United States Anesthesia Partners, the largest anesthesia group in Houston, and the chief of anesthesia at Houston Methodist Baytown Hospital, as well as a senior leader at Houston Methodist Cypress Hospital. She got there as a single mother who was married at 20 and had her first child at 21, pursuing her medical ambitions without pausing for any of it. Physician partners at major anesthesia groups in Houston sit among the highest earners in the entire medical profession. We're talking compensation packages well into the seven-figure range when you factor in the partnership equity model. And Dr. Leblanc is now actively building the mentorship and sponsorship infrastructure to ensure that she is not, as she puts it, the only one at the top for long. The woman who was told she wouldn't last is now the one deciding who gets trained next. That's the story. Now, if you thought combining NFL, consulting with stilettos, and a psychiatric practice was impossible, our next entry will change your mind completely. Number 7. Dr. Kathy Flanigan. The Houston Chronicle called her the well-heeled doctor, which captures both her signature stilettos and her rise to the highest tiers of psychiatric practice in the city. And honestly, both are worth talking about. Dr. Kathy C. Flanigan has been in private practice in Houston's Upper Kirby area since 1990, specializing in mood disorders, and has spent 25 years as a national speaker for a major pharmaceutical company. But the breadth of her influence is what's genuinely interesting. She's an NFL consultant, a former NBPA consultant, chair of Interfaith Ministries, a board member at the Menninger Clinic, appointed by both President George W. Bush and Governor Rick Perry to public service roles. And during COVID-19, appointed by Houston's mayor to chair the city's Health Equity Response Task Force. That's not a psychiatrist who got famous. That's an institution wearing heels. Number 6. Argentina James. Here's a number worth pausing on. $17.5 billion. That is the combined value of the infrastructure and economic development projects that Argentina James and her firm, HillDay Public Relations, have managed and supported in Houston. Before founding HillDay in 2010, she served as VP of Public Affairs at the Port of Houston Authority, directing initiatives that generated over $2 billion in economic development on their own. Her client list, Tex DOT, Metro, the City of Houston, Hensel Phelps, is essentially a directory of the organizations that decide what gets built in this city and how it gets communicated to the public. She has raised $75 million for local nonprofits, including $1.2 million from a single Texas Southern University Tiger Ball event. James is the woman in the room when Houston's largest financial decisions are being made, and she has been for over 3 decades. The fact that her name doesn't appear in more conversations about Houston wealth is itself the most interesting thing about her. Number 5. Winnell Herren. Heb is not just a grocery store in Texas, it is a cultural institution. The kind of company that shows up first after natural disasters, employs 116,000 people across the state, and commands a loyalty from Texans that multinational chains have spent decades trying and failing to replicate. And Winnell Herren, as Senior Vice President of Public Affairs, Diversity, and Environmental Affairs, is the person who shapes how that institution shows up for the communities it serves at scale. She oversees philanthropic strategy, public affairs, and diversity initiatives for one of the largest privately held retailers in the country, which means she has access to one of the most powerful corporate platforms in Texas and the authority to direct it toward meaningful community outcomes. Her board footprint across Houston is remarkable. The Houston Zoo, the Houston Museum of African American Culture, the Greater Houston Women's Chamber of Commerce Hall of Fame, the NAACP Corporate Advisory Council at the Texas state level. She was named one of the top 25 most influential women in Houston, and the recognition is accurate. She has directed millions toward hunger relief, education, and disaster recovery. At HEB's scale, the line between corporate strategy and community infrastructure barely exists, and Herren is living on both sides of it simultaneously. Number 4. Lizzo. This is the entry where the list genuinely shifts gear because Lizzo, born Melissa Vivian Jefferson, raised in Houston from age 10, educated at the University of Houston where she played flute in the marching band, is a different kind of wealth story than everything preceding her. Her 2025 net worth sits at approximately $40 million, a figure that has tripled since 2022. Built across a Grammy-winning music career in Yiddy, Her shapewear brand developed in partnership with Fabletics that immediately connected with the body-positive fashion market in a way that traditional activewear brands had never bothered to try. She purchased a Beverly Hills mansion previously owned by Harry Styles for $15 million, which is simultaneously a real estate investment and one of the more memorable celebrity housing moves in recent years. Her additional real estate portfolio pushes her total property holdings to the $26 million range. Her Houston roots remain a core, vocal part of her public identity, and she's consistent about crediting the Bayou City for her musical instincts and the particular kind of thick-skinned persistence she developed here. Here's what the overnight success narrative misses. She spent nearly a decade grinding, performing for small rooms, building an audience without industry backing before any of the awards and brand deals arrived. Houston people already know that version of her story. The rest of the world is still catching up to it. Number 3. Tina Knowles-Lawson. Before Beyonce was Beyonce, there was Tina Knowles running Headliners, a Houston hair salon in the 3rd Ward that became both the financial foundation for her daughters' early careers and the creative laboratory where she developed the instincts that would eventually produce 2 global fashion labels. House of Darion and Miss Tina by Tina Knowles took the Houston aesthetic. That specific blend of Southern glamour, Creole color, and unapologetic self-presentation, and translated it for an international market that was ready for it, even if it didn't know it yet. She co-founded the Waco Theater Center to invest in arts education in the community that raised her. She remains one of the most vocal and consistent advocates for Black wealth circulation in the 3rd Ward. And her philosophy, the 3rd Ward hustle, the idea of not just escaping a neighborhood but owning it, investing in it, coming back for it, is the foundational framework that runs through everything the Knowles-Carter family has built across 2 generations. There is no Beyoncé at number 1 without Tina Knowles laying the groundwork first. And frankly, once you understand the full scope of what Mama Tina built, the story of our number 1 feels less like a miracle and more like the inevitable product of a very specific plan. Number 2. Eileen Lawal. Here's a test. Ask 10 people in Houston to name the city's wealthiest Black women. Almost none of them will say Eileen Lawal, and that gap between her actual power and her public profile is one of the most instructive things about how serious wealth actually operates at the top tier. Lawal co-owns 80% of CAMAC International with her husband, Case Lawal, a Houston-based energy conglomerate that reported peak revenues of $2.43 billion on the Black Enterprise 100's list and operates across the full energy value chain: exploration, production, crude oil trading, gas, and electrical power. The company's story begins as an agricultural commodities trader dealing in sugar, tobacco, and rice, and pivots in the early 1990s when the Lawals secured land rights in Africa and partnered with Conoco to enter the oil sector. That pivot catapulted the family into the billionaire tier, with Case Lawal ranked among the 4 wealthiest Black individuals in America. Eileen Lawal is not a silent partner. She manages the family's social positioning, chairs major Houston fundraising events, has directed millions toward HIV/AIDS research and orphanages in Africa, and co-founded the Case and Eileen Lawal Center for International Business Development at Texas Southern University with a $1 million endowment. She operates at the intersection of global energy capital and Houston civic life. Visible enough to shape the city, quiet enough that most people never track the full scope of what she's built. And as impressive as it all may sound, Eileen's power still falls short of our number 1 entry, the single wealth story on this list that is about to blow your mind. Number 1. Beyonce Knowles-Carter. It's safe to say that everything on this list so far has been just a build-up to arrive here. 15 women. 15 different blueprints for wealth. And then there's Beyonce, born in the 3rd Ward, educated in Houston's church choirs and talent competitions, and currently sitting on an estimated net worth of $800 million that analysts believe is heading toward 10 figures within a few years. The business architecture behind that number is genuinely worth understanding, because it's more sophisticated than the famous singer with a clothing line narrative that most people perceive by default. Parkwood Entertainment is the management and production infrastructure that controls her creative output, brand partnerships, and equity positions. Ivy Park is her retail vehicle, re-engineered as an independent brand following the Adidas partnership restructuring. Sacred, her new haircare line, is being positioned as her entry into the beauty space. Analysts are drawing direct comparisons to Rihanna's Fenty Beauty playbook, suggesting that a similar market capture would push Beyoncé's net worth past the billion-dollar threshold within years. She holds a $200 million Malibu compound. She has 35 Grammy wins, the most of any artist in history. And she is, by any reasonable measure, one of the most financially disciplined entertainers operating anywhere in the world. But the Houston piece is not just biography, it's philosophy. During Hurricane Harvey, the Knowles-Carter family deployed millions in direct aid while government response was still being organized. Her connection to the Third Ward is not a branding exercise. She has used her capital to literally invest in the community that made her. Buy the block you grew up on is not a metaphor in her family. It is an actual operating principle. And when you look back at this entire list, at Davis inventing a product for a gap the market ignored, at Payton buying back the Fifth Ward, at Lawal quietly running a $2.43 billion energy empire, at James managing $17.5 billion worth of Houston's infrastructure from a firm most people have never heard of, you realize that Beyoncé's philosophy isn't unique to her. It's the through line of this entire list. Build it, own it, bring it back home. Houston apparently has been teaching that lesson for a very long time. And with that note, we wrap this crazy countdown up. 15 Black women, 15 different stories of how Black wealth is prospering across Texas. Which one of these empires impressed you the most? Let us know in the comments, and for more such interesting peeks into Black wealth, take a look at Black Status.